Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy DeYoung. Welcome to Prophecy Today video. On Prophecy Today weekend, we had some very important news that we needed to cover with our broadcast partners. We talked with Ken Timmerman in Washington, D.C. We looked at the Benghazi Gate, as they are referring to it, a major move to cover up something that seemingly was trying to manipulate activities in the elections or whatever. Much more information to come out on that. But when you think about that, you've got to remember the Arab Spring has played a key role in the Middle East for the last year and a half. And when you think about Benghazi, which is in Libya, the radical elements, I understand that Colonel Gaddafi was a bad, wicked man. But what has replaced him, that element coming to power now in Libya, is very radical. Let me just think about this with you. Ezekiel chapter 38 does mention Libya in that alignment of nations that will come against the Jewish state of Israel in the last days. Daniel 11 does the exact same thing. That's verses 40 to 43, and you'll see Libya mentioned there. And so when you look at Benghazi, you look at the situation in Libya, you have to understand this is a stage-setting process there in that part of the region of the Middle East. We talked to Dr. Rob Congdon. He reports for us on the European Union and what's happening there. And we talked about a military force that would be put in place in the European Union. The European Union doesn't like its relationship with NATO. They realize the United States is playing the key role there. They want their own military operation. And that's a step towards the revived Roman Empire, because when you revive a major empire, a Gentile world power of the past, they must have a military operation, their own military operation, not under some type of remote control from another nation of the world. And of course, we also talked about the European Union and the Mediterranean Union coming together. They have put that in high gear now for the very near future, when you will gel these two different unions, 27 member states in the European Union. You have 17 member states in the Mediterranean Union, 44 states. And remember, Rob brought to our attention, when that's in place, it'll be the actual borders of the Roman Empire at the time of the height of their power. But that, again, is a step to the revival of the Roman Empire. Daniel chapter 7, verse 7 talks about the 10 horns. Daniel chapter 2 talks about the 10 toes of iron and clay. In Daniel 7, verses 23 and 24, that's talking about the revival of the Roman Empire, who will come to power at the time of the end. When we talked with Itamar Marcus, he heads up Palestinian Media Watch. We talked with Itamar about the 24th anniversary of Yasser Arafat declaring independence for the Palestinian people. It's a declaration of independence that took place back in 1988. Well, this marked the beginning of a process where the Palestinian people wanted to have their own Palestinian state. They say that the Israelis took their Palestinian state away. Truth be known, there has never been a Palestinian state. It's a part of the whole process for the Palestinian people to come back to power. The prophet Malachi in chapter 1 said, as he was relating to the Edomites, those would be the Palestinian people of today. What would happen is the Edomites or the Palestinians would return, they would rebuild, they would have borders, and the text says in Malachi chapter 1, the Lord would call these borders of wickedness. And he would have indignation against these people forever. The Palestinian people, you can trace from Esau, 25th chapter of the book of Genesis, when he was first born, a twin to Jacob, all the way to today, and we get that information. I'll look at that in just a few moments. Colonel Bob McGinnis in Washington talked with us about the Benghazi situation, the terrorist attack that was underway in Benghazi, the fact that General Petraeus said that and knew it early on, and it looks like the Obama administration tried to manipulate that. For what purpose, we're not absolutely sure. Talked with Yoel Karen. What an interesting conversation that was. The 25th anniversary of the Temple Institute. These people have been preparing to build the Temple Institute the temple on the Temple Mount in the city of Jerusalem. All preparations have been made. And I want you to know that all these conversations, especially the one with Yoel Karen, they're all on our website, prophecytoday.com, at PTRN, Prophecy Today Radio Network. That's radio when you want it, at your convenience. But you know, our main report was on the Gaza military operation by the Israeli Defense Force. That is key. This is really the epitome of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It started 4,000 years ago, Genesis chapter 25. Jacob and Esau in the mother's womb started to struggle together. It was very interesting. Esau was sent to Mount Seir, which is the lower third of modern-day Jordan. Jacob was given Israel. This continues the conflict. Esau had a grandson named Amalek. He became the leader of the Amalekites. When you look at the book of Exodus chapter 17, you see the Amalekites try to wipe out the Israelites as they're headed towards the promised land. That was at a place called Rephidim. 1 Samuel chapter 15 talks about how God told Samuel the prophet to tell the first king of Israel, King Saul, to kill all the Amalekites, and he did not follow through. In fact, a recent statement by an Israeli general said the problem in the Middle East, and especially the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is because King Saul wasn't obedient. He allowed Agag, who was the king of the Amalekites, to stay alive. Ultimately, Samuel chopped him up in little pieces. You look at the book of Esther, Haman had a desire to wipe out the Jewish people. He moved ahead to do that. By the way, chapter 3, verse 1 says Haman was the son of Abbadatha, a Agagite. And may I tell you this, Haman had a great-great-grandson. His name was Herod the Great. You understand what I've just said to you? From Esau to Amalek to Agag, to Haman, and then to Herod the Great. All of these people, Edomites, trying to destroy the Jewish people. Well, again, Malachi 1 says that they will return and try to rebuild. Ezekiel chapter 35 says judgment will come upon these people, the Palestinian people, for killing the Jews and trying to take their land. The book of Obadiah brings a conclusion to this. When Jesus Christ returns, he will reward the Jewish people, give them the possessions he's promised them, and he will destroy the Palestinian people. This is a conflict like never before in all of history. It's talked about in the Bible. It's going to happen, and this conflict will only be resolved with the return of Jesus Christ. But let me remind you, the next event on God's calendar of activities is the rapture of the church, the rapture. And that's when Jesus shouts, the archangel shouts, the trumpet of God sounds, and we're caught up to be with him in the air. And everything we've said on this broadcast is evidence to me, and it should be to you, that the rapture can happen at any moment. And having made that statement, there's nothing left for me to say except let's keep looking up until